Hi, Gerhard Bloom, once again looking at the tyranny and the delusions of the social justice movement. Just when you think things couldn't get any more crazy, yes, the LA Dodgers went ahead and invited the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence and honored this group, this trans and drag group, with their Community Heroes Award. Community Heroes, really? This group's shtick is to dress up in grotesque parodies of Catholic nuns and perform highly sexualized rituals and deeply offensive mockeries of Catholic rituals. Oh, how brave, except it's not. It's not the least little bit brave. Let them try that with the Islamic faith and see what might happen. Yes, that really would be brave, but very, very dangerous. You saw what happened when you draw cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, right? Try this grotesque parody. And of the media, do yourself a favor. Do a Google search on this Dodgers Perpetual Indulgence nonsense. Website after website, news site after news site says, oh, it was, the fans cheered and, a few protesters. Couldn't be further from the truth. Look on YouTube. There's an excellent video there showing this group being actively booed by the handful of fans that were in attendance. I don't mean fans of this poisonous group. I mean fans of the baseball game, presumably. The stadium looked like it was closed for business. Yeah, nothing to see here, folks. Go home. Stadium virtually empty. And outside, there were thousands of protesters. And no, they weren't all Catholic. There was a rabbi who spoke out against this cultural poison. And still doubting whether leftists are engaged in grooming, this indoctrination into the radical sex and gender ideology now begins in kindergarten and continues out throughout the educational system. And the longer they are in these institutions, the more diluted they get. PhD students talking about non-binary, as though basic biology from high school shouldn't have set them straight. Well, it's being taught in biology classes. And from school, no, it's not just in the schools. It's in movies. It's everywhere. Across culture, from Disneyland, children's television shows, cartoons, to the supermarkets, and yes, sporting events. And why drag shows for kids? And I mentioned this, I believe, on a previous episode. This is RuPaul, famous drag performer. He came out and said it. Drag queens are the Marines of the queer movement. And queer theory? This is from the leftist captured Wikipedia. It used to be a fairly reasonable resource, ideologically captured. So the people at Wikipedia, the deluded leftists that they are, should understand queer theory. Shouldn't you should think, right? Well, here it is. Queer theory is the lens used to explore and challenge how scholars, activists, art texts, and the media perpetuate gender and sex-based binaries. And its goal is to undo hierarchies and fight against social inequalities. Except now that they've captured every institution of social and ideological or cultural prominence, the schools, the text, the media, they're all parroting this poisonous queer theory nonsense, and it's destroying lives. And like other Marxist programs, it seeks to challenge our social norms. They see them as arbitrary and repressive, particularly sexually repressive. Its aim is to overthrow the oppressive, white, heteronormative, cis-dominated system, the patriarchy, oppression. Queer theory is yet another toxic manifestation of cultural Marxism. And this oppression nonsense, just as critical race theory does. For Marxists, everything is oppressor and oppressed, and instead the ruling elite, the bourgeoisie, and the proletariat, now it's these weaponized identity categories, and they want to challenge the binary, right? In this case, queer ideologues believe that gender and sexual identities are social constructs. Yes, sex and binary social constructs. People are not born male or female. Oh, that is so yesterday. They are interpolated or read into oppressive and restrictive gender categories. And so, yes, absent capitalist bourgeois oppression and the sexual binaries, men can give birth, and yes, women can have penises. Go ahead and install a tampon dispenser in the men's room because, yes, men can have periods. Except they can't. It's nonsense. And this is being taught in the classroom to vulnerable and impressionable children. What the hell are they going to make from all of this nonsense? I know that these queerist theorists, very few small numbers of these actually believe this nonsense. The rest, they go along to get along. They want to be part of this woke tribe. It's disgusting. They should grow a spine. Awful. And teachers are rescuing children from this oppression and encouraged to explore the limiting possibilities of gender fluidity. And you thought you were paying them to teach your child to read and write. They can't read and they can't write. This has been demonstrated on international test scores over the decades. American test scores on international standards have plummeted. And no, they don't want standardized tests in the school because they would reveal just how shocking failures these teachers are. And yes, there are good teachers out there doing the best they can under very trying circumstances. They live under a tyranny of Maoist indoctrination. And at the same time that they're filling your child's head with this poisonous nonsense, Judeo-Christian values are being actively attacked. Again, exemplified by the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence for allegedly restricting and suppressing juvenile sexuality. And so children are being provided sexually explicit material, literature, involving various creative sexual acts. Yes, this is happening, except in Florida. DeSantis pushed back on this, get that poisonous stuff out. If it was up to me, teachers involved in this would be jailed. These ideologues never consider the possibility that children aren't emotionally and intellectually equipped to negotiate adult sexual relationships. Children get exploited, and yes, by school teachers. This is happening. Pedophilia, of course, minor attracted people, because, love is love. Sex is not a social construct. It is a biological reality. Permanently disfiguring surgeries and chemicals notwithstanding, sex cannot be changed. And I'm on record as saying, for adults suffering gender dysphoria, the least bad option may well be to transition. The least bad, because in this situation, there's no good outcomes. Children, under no circumstances, should be given permanently disfiguring surgeries and cross-sex hormones. It's awful, destroying their bodies and destroying their lives. And by the way, there is no evidence that such treatments are at all helpful. You've been lied to. And the detransitioners, that's a debunked myth. Didn't you know? Except it's not a debunked myth. It's a tragic reality, and there are countless narratives out there if you look for them. Get past your willful blindness. Do some digging. You can check out my book. And every time you hear that some pointy-headed leftist telling you it's a debunked myth, look for the buried body. You'll find one. Children need to be protected from this damaging and distorting ideology. They are simply too young to understand the consequences, and their sexual identities need to be protected. Anytime you see a parent pushing their kid in front of the world, saying, here's my trans child, they're exploiting their child's confusion and innocence to show you just how socially virtuous they are. Well, they're not. They're exploiting their child's vulnerability. It's disgusting. If this child is suffering gender dysphoria and confusion as a result of social contagion, you shelter that child's sexual identity and sexuality. And please do check out my book, Deconstructing Social Justice. I promise you it's important, not because I wrote it, because the issues could not be more important. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Bye-bye.